Here we go. We're doing sales entries for a merchandising business. Initially, we're looking at making the same type of transaction or the same type of entry as you would for a regular business that we've been studying. Cash, sales, period. What we've added for this one is the merchandise. This company now sells a product, so it wants to keep track of its merchandise also. So when I do cash and sales here for a service company, I'm only keeping track of services, and then I deduct all of the expenses from operations, right? Well, when you get to a merchandise company, you're going to also have to subtract what it cost for your product. So that is going to be a cost of merchandise sold, debit, and a merchandise credit to the inventory. So it's an added entry that needs to be done. And this is in a perpetual system now, so you're doing it as you make the sales. So here you have, if everything's being done with credit cards, and credit cards are actually considered cash for a business. So each month you're going to be charged a credit card expense or a fee. That does not go against the inventory, but it goes against a regular expense account, and it's called a credit card expense. And that's just going to be a debit and a credit to cash. Here's a sales on account, and instead of receiving cash for this, you're going to put it in accounts receivable for digital technologies. And we've got the invoice number here. So it's $18,000 and $18,000. The merchandise cost us $10,800, and we're going to take that amount out of the inventory. And it even tags it to what invoice it goes to. Next, we look at sales discounts. So sometimes when we sell items, to get people to pay it early, we will give them a sales discount. And that's usually a 2-10 net 30, where we're saying if you pay this within 10 days, we're going to give you a 2% discount. And these people did. So we've already got the $1,800 in accounts receivable, so that has to go away. That's an $18,000. The cash, though, if I take 2% of this $18,000, it will come up to $360. So we actually receive cash of $17,640, and we've created a sales discount. So we've just added one line entry to this with the discount. Here's a credit memo that's explaining that there's going to be a credit or a decrease in a buyer's account receivable. You'll see these are memos. And this is for sales returns and allowance. They have said we're returning this amount of merchandise. So that's what the credit memo was. And now we have to adjust the accounts. We've received it, we've got the merchandise back. Well, first of all, we've got to take it out of their accounts receivable. We've set up an allowance account called Sales, Returns, and Allowances that's going to be debited. We obviously have received this merchandise back, and we have to put it back into inventory. And we took it and put it into cost of goods sold, or cost of merchandise sold, so we've got to take it back out. So we just kind of reversed all those entries we did before. And here's a summary of how this kind of works. You purchased the merchandise for sale, and it went into inventory right here. When it was returned from the customer, it came out and went back in here. And the cost of goods sold was credited here, or debited here, sorry, and credited on this side. Now, we haven't used the purchase returns and allowances yet. Usually that's used on a perpetual system, or a periodic system, although it kind of flows through a periodic system, perpetual system also. So that can be confusing. Here's the freight terms, and here's two terms. Free on board to the shipping point. Freight on board to the shipping point. And that means the title passes to the buyer once they receive it. So the freight on board to the shipping point. This one is freight on board destination. The title, that doesn't make sense. That's the same thing. Free on board. Buyer pays the freight. Okay, so free on board to the shipping point. The buyer pays the freight. If we come back here to the free on board to destination, this is when the title passes to the buyer and the seller pays the freight. Okay, that makes sense. Did you see that? The buyer is paying the freight, so the title passes to the buyer at this point here. When the seller pays the freight, the title doesn't pass to the buyer until they receive it. That was a little confusing the way they had that written. So I hope that makes sense. You will see those terms several times. Here's another entry. The merchandise was debited for inventory, and obviously they bought it. They put it in their accounts payable. And you'll notice they've taken out $50 out of the inventory. Oh no, they've taken it and put it in. They haven't got this marked very well. They have increased the merchandise inventory by $50 because they paid the freight to have it sent. So this first entry right here is how much the merchandise cost, and this is how much it costs to have it shipped to them. So the merchandise in total cost $950 according to this. And this should be better marked. Now this one says sales plus freight cost, and we're looking at accounts receivable of $700 in sales, so we sold something. This is our cost of merchandise, $480, and we've taken it out. And here we now have a delivery expense because we are going to pay for that. So our delivery expense, pay for the shipping, is $40, and the cash is $40. When we ship like this, it's an added cost of doing business, and it's not part of the merchandise sold, so it goes into a different category. And here's the seller prepays the freight. So you have accounts receivable and sales. You have the cost of goods sold here and here. And then they have debited the accounts receivable and credited cash. So it appears that this was added to the invoice. So you can see how they've added that into the accounts receivable. Various ways to work with freight, and every company does it in a different manner sometimes. Most companies call it freight though, and the switching between shipping and freight is kind of confusing. Overall, that is sales entries for merchandising. We'll cover freight a little more, and I'm not happy with this here. I think we need a better explanation of that. So I'll get some more stuff on freight. Thank you for listening. I shall see you in class. Thank you.